Hi, everyone. Welcome to Founder Made's Power Hour. We're just going to wait a little bit so that people can come on in and join us. But this is my first Power Hour of the year. I actually have taken a break off of the Power Hours, and Michelle, our CRO, has been moderating. But this is a very, very special Power Hour today with some incredible entrepreneurs. So you guys are really going to get a just incredible insight. And we're going to have a real talk today because it's not easy being a founder. May is Mental Health Month, and I think that there is a lot to be said about that mindset that you come in and being a leader and making sure that you are really creating that mindset that's going to build big things in the world and build what you envision. So each of these founders have really brought that, and we have an incredible session presented by Target Accelerators. We're doing retail reflections, and we have Dorian Morris, who is the founder and CEO of Undefined Beauty. We have Darcy Rosenblum, who's the founder of Strike Club. And then we have Calvin Wallace, who he's the founder of Scotch and Porter. So get ready. It's a huge experience. And then, what I want to really talk about with you guys, and what we're going to talk about in this agenda is, how founders are scaling, just, how you go from inception to scaling to mass retail, what that takes, what, key learnings that these three founders have had, their experience of being part of the Target Accelerator program and the lessons that they've learned while scaling their brands. And then we're going to talk about the challenges, because we're still not out of this COVID experience, but there's some huge opportunities in retail happening post-pandemic. And I know that they're doing a ton of different things that I think you guys can all learn from. And so with that, welcome everyone. And I would love to just go through and let's just get your background. Darcy, we'll start with you. You're the co-founder of Strike Club, but what's your background, and how did you get into creating what's the tagline? You have an incredible tagline on your site, which is what?
Oh, I think I'm just the CPG expert. I don't even remember.
You are the CPG expert, but you've created the most advanced skincare product made just for boys. Right?
We did. So Strike Club was formed just for boys, and I can tell you a little bit about our founding story. So we are 4 women with 11 kids amongst us, and we noticed our daughters' bathrooms were overflowing with product, and our boys, we're lucky to have a bar of soap. And boys have skin too, and why should they be borrowing from the girls? So we decided to start Strike Club, and it's a skincare line for teen boys. And, we're trying to change the way boys feel about themselves and create some confidence through simple and effective grooming products. And then hopefully try to change the conversation around male grooming for this future generation. So it's really a lifestyle brand, for boys that they can own. And that's what we're trying to do.
Awesome. And I want to go back to what your whole background in CPG is, but we'll start with we'll go next with Calvin Wallace, Scotch and Porter. Tell us what was the inspiration behind Scotch and Porter, and when did you start? And also let's also talk about the Target Accelerator program and when you guys were a part of this Target Accelerator program. So Darcy, you were a part of Target Accelerator program when?
It was beginning of 2020. So COVID hit right in the middle. So we were lucky enough to go to Minneapolis for the first week, and then basically left and was shut down at that point. It was a little crazy.
I can't wait to dig into that. And so Calvin, tell us Scotch and Porter. When did you start when did you start Scotch and Porter, and then when did you join the Target Accelerator program?
Yeah, so Scotch Porter started, we started the brand in 2015, and sort of the origin story of Scotch Porter is, I really recall like my earlier years, wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my life. And I'd say during some of the toughest weeks or moments, like I kind of beat myself up, kind of feeling less than, because I hadn't felt like I had no kind of direction. I'd spend the last $20 I had on a haircut and would kind of leave the barbershop feeling like $1 million. And then so I've always known that self-care had the ability to help one feel better about themselves. And then I also grew up in my mom's barbershop. My mom had a barbershop and beauty supply. And it's just always been pretty amazing to me how something so simple like a haircut could really turn like a funky week or month around and kind of really change one's perspective. And so anyhow, with these sort of personal experiences and from the kitchen of my home and the barbershop, Scotch Porter was born in 2015. And we are an award-winning cross-cultural grooming brand with products that are clean and more effective, and with a mission and goal to really arm our customers with the tools needed to live their best, most fulfilled lives. I had joined the Target Accelerator program in 2019, and it was a really incredible experience, and I've learned a ton to be prepared to launch in retail. And we had launched in Target in 2020.
Awesome story and awesome background with your mom actually having her own, salon, and it makes sense. You don't realize all these different pieces of your journey turn into, what you're doing today. So congratulations on Scotch Porter.
Thank you.
And Dorian.
Hello there, I'm Dorian, founder of Undefined Beauty, which is clean, conscious, inclusive plant magic. My mission as a brand is to democratize beauty and destigmatize plant-based wellness, everything from adaptogens to cannabis. And so my brand is a bit different. It's very lifestyle focused and really focused on giving people the tools to live, to tackle modern day stress and live their best life, very similar to what Calvin had mentioned. And I am a beauty and wellness veteran and junkie, I guess I would say. So I started my career, a million years ago. Started at Macy's in their buying office, so started in retail. So that's where I kind of learned assortment planning, which is always very fun, how to manage like your checkbook as a merchant. Then I went to Harvard Business School to get a general management foundation. Then I went to General Mills, so food marketing, working on some really amazing brands. But I've always had a passion for beauty, so I moved back into the beauty space at Kendo, which was a division of Sephora. And then Sundial, which made natural personal care products, and then CoverGirl Cosmetics before launching Undefined. And for me, the impetus for really launching the brand was that, working across these large corporations, I felt that there was something missing. And that missing piece was how to really tackle inclusivity in an authentic way and do it at an accessible price point. And so Undefined is really focused on bridging that gap and providing high quality, efficacious products that don't cost your firstborn child. And I was part of the Target takeoff this year. So we just finished up, I guess it was maybe about a month ago. And so it was all virtual. So a very different experience, I think, than my counterparts here on the panel, but it was an amazing opportunity to really get exposure into like what makes Target so beautiful and powerful, and how, as brand leaders, we can tap into their ecosystem. So super excited to be chatting on this panel.
Awesome. And so, I'd love to just go through, and there's some aha moments I think that you have, that every entrepreneur has on their journey. So, let's go back to Darcy. I would love to just understand, what were your aha moments that you had, in starting, because you've worked for a ton of different larger brands building, and I think we kind of touched on your background, but I'd love to hear a little bit more. And then, how did you come to this venture?
Yeah. So, I've spent my career, working for some great brands, leading, their marketing. Most recently, Ollie Nutrition. I worked with Method Home and Yes Too, and I saw how it was done, and it was funny because the four of us who founded a Strike Club, one is a pediatric dermatologist, one is a family therapist, and then two of us are more business minded. And the pediatric.
How did you meet your co-founders?
So it was sort of funny. So the family therapist and the entrepreneur were like childhood best friends. The entrepreneur, my husband, went to business school together, and then I was friends with a pediatric dermatologist, and it sort of just trickled. And it was interesting because both doctors saw a huge increase in boys coming to their practices, whether it was self-esteem issues or whether it was physical issues, because of this selfie generation. And that was really an aha moment for us, with kids on screen. And then, when the pandemic hit with Zoom. So, and just the embarrassment around boys and self-care. And it's just such an open conversation, I think, with moms and daughters. But there's nothing, besides probably a dad teaching a son how to shave, there's a lot of stigma around self-care. And for the millennials, it's starting to happen with celebrities moving into skincare. But for the boys, there's really nothing for them. So that was sort of an aha moment for us, and just figuring out that there was this white space. And, we socialized the idea a lot with, target buyers that I've known from my past careers, with other brand managers in big organizations. Like, why hasn't Unilever started, this sort of entered into this niche market? And, everybody acknowledged that it was a white space. So that was just that was the biggest aha moment for us.
And at those other bigger brands that you were working with, or what was your role? What do you think the things that you learned? What were those pieces that you learned that kind of got you to get the confidence and think about how you could really rapidly scale your business?
Yeah, I think, they all grew into bigger brands, but I think it was really the knowledge at the get-go, and just the scrappiness and the willingness to pivot and to throw something out the door, and the willingness to fail. I think in like the Cloroxes of the world, you had a way of doing things. I just remember we would, at Method, someone would come over from Clorox and they'd throw their big binder down on the desk and be like, here's what we did at Clorox. And I'd look at them and be like, yeah, we don't have binders here. Like, you just sort of make it up as you go along. And so I think it's that sort of just roll your sleeves up, get it done, and really not being afraid to fail, and learning from your mistakes, and rejoicing in your mistakes. You learn something, and being able to pivot quickly. And I think that's probably the biggest learning I brought, from those more established brands to Strike Club.
And with your background, what was the reason you wanted to work with the Target Accelerator program? What was your thought process there?
So Target, I've worked with Target for many years, and, it was sort of the playbook of all the companies that we went exclusive to Target to sort of prove out the hypothesis of what we were doing, and then slowly introduce it to other channels. So I really liked that hypothesis. And Target is just the #1 retailer where people discover brands and people are open to new brands. And so I was really, when we started Strike Club, I was like, this is our goal, Target is our goal. And I applied to the Accelerator program really on a fluke. I was looking up who the beauty buyer was, because I had never worked in the beauty category, or it'd been years since Yes To, and I, wasn't familiar. So I literally looked him up on LinkedIn and saw that there was a link to apply for this. So I literally just randomly, applied, and it was probably the best thing I've done for the business.
That's huge. That is so huge. Well, so Calvin, tell us a little bit about, your whole journey. I mean, you touched on it, but, how did you get in, what made you decide you wanted to be in the Target Accelerator program, but then also just how has your business shifted from 2015? I mean, you've been doing this for a little bit. I mean, not 20 years yet, but, just in terms of how you've shifted, and how it shifted also through the pandemic. So lots of different questions, but I'm sure you can touch on them.
Yeah, so through the Target Accelerator program, I think back in 2000 and might have been the end of 2018 when I applied, I knew, I think we were really focused at that time on, being where our customer is, and just hearing feedback from our customers about places that they wanted to see us. And Target was one of those places that they shopped frequently, purchased their products, and wanted to see us there. And I had heard through a friend that Target was having an accelerator program. Actually, he had participated in the program and had recommended that I apply. He actually connected me to someone on their supplier diversity team that had a little bit more information about the program, told me about the program, when I should apply, and I kind of just applied. I wasn't sure if I'd make it, But the purpose of me applying is because we started as a D2C brand, and I had no clue how retail operates, very, very foreign to me. And I thought that this would be a really great opportunity to kind of understand how Target functions, how that all works. And if retail could actually be something that we could thrive in, you know, based on sort of the operational structure and the things that are required to operate in at a retailer like Target. And so through the program, learned an incredible amount of what it means and what it takes to work with a big retailer like Target, and it's been an incredible experience. And I mean, the people that are running the program, they just do an incredible job at running that program. It's probably one of the best experiences that I've had in terms of like joining an accelerator program or some other program that's similar to an accelerator program. So it's been a really incredible experience. It's really prepared us, I'd say, for a successful launch at retail. And we recently launched at Target in March of 2020.
And so Calvin, what were those aha moments even prior to, you know, the accelerator? What were your aha, now that you've like looked back, like to look back on your journey right now, you know, in terms of just these like ways that you were like, okay, we're doing D2C, now we're going to go into retail. Like, what were some of those key learnings that you learned across those moments, you know, in your business?
I'd say some of the biggest sort of aha moments come from how different D2C is from traditional retailer. Again, Scotch Porter was born as a digitally native brand where there's a bit more flexibility and sort of direct connection to the customer. When it comes to, say, product launches and development of new products, you know, we're in constant communication with our online customers about kind of what they're looking for, how we can improve and kind of take those learnings to really optimize areas of the business, optimize products, and kind of very quickly put things together like limited edition drops without heavy inventory commitments. Retail is very, very different. We don't have the same direct connection really or data on the customer in aisle. I'd say that there isn't a tremendous amount of flexibility, say, in like testing limited edition drops. And you really have to feel really confident about each product that you drop, because you have to have the ability to invest in the inventory to support success at retail. With our D2C business, you know, we're kind of able to carry 60 days of, say, finished goods on hand. And we're really finding that in retail, you ideally need to carry, say, 6 months to really support ramp up in the success there. So D2C also, you know, you're paid before an order ships, right? Retail payment terms can be 60 to 90 days. So really the cash cycle is much longer. And then especially as wholesale becomes like a larger part of our business, cash flow can be an issue. So what we've done to kind of succeed there is we've, you know, with that understanding, we've invested in our on-hand inventory, and then we've also brought on teammates with experience in retail to really help us to manage our growth in retail partnerships.
That's awesome. I mean, people say retail can make or break your business. If you go into like, you know, Costco too quickly, or any you know, bigger retailers too quickly, it can totally ruin your business if you don't have the right terms. And so just knowing how to navigate, that's huge. And by the way, for everyone that's watching, you can please there's no wrong question. We love, you know, seeing questions. I'll be answering them at the end. So or I'll be asking some questions from the audience. So just feel free to pipe them in. And then Dorian, what was your aha moment? You know, I mean, Undefined Beauty, huge mission, hugely, you know, it's just, I love all the different types of products you're also doing, but they're with the full, you know, incredible branding, and then also mission and ethos. So what were those aha moments after doing all of the different things you've done in your career?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful time for Undefined. So I started the brand in 2018. So I took a very different approach. It was one where I was going to be slow, methodical, self-funded. So like, I'm still a bootstrap solo founder, team of one. So I wear every hat in the company, which not sustainable in the long term, but I think it's also taught me enough to be dangerous across every single piece of the business. I do think that having the beauty background has been helpful because I know the right questions to ask. But it is very different being an entrepreneur, because I don't have large teams, large budgets, like I've done before. And so it's been a fun experiment to be scrappy. And for me, the Target program was valuable because I'm in the process of launching a new collection that'll go live this summer that will open up a lot more opportunities, because the first collection was focused on the benefits of CBD, which is a beautiful botanical that comes from the cannabis plant. But unfortunately, there's a lot of regulation and gray areas that make it really challenging to play, both from how, limited marketing leverage you can pull, limited distribution partners as well, because a lot of large retailers are still hesitant until there's more FDA guidance. And so with this new collection, it's allowing me to play finally without handcuffs. So super excited to start testing out marketing levers, because everything to date has been organic. So I haven't actually spent any money to drive brand building. And so this is going to be a fun part 2 of my journey, and really taking some of the tools that I learned in the previous, larger CPG companies and bringing them to my kind of independent business model.
I love it. I love it. And then, since you're doing pretty much everything, what would be, if you have a small budget as a brand, what are you doing to market? Like, what are you putting money into to market your brand? How are you being dangerous in a very, in a way where you're very efficient with your time? So just would love to know some learnings on that end.
I would say if you asked me this pre-COVID, it'd be a very different scenario. Because in the beginning of time, so when I launched in 2018, the focus is really events. So like actually getting boots on the ground, because I use it as a learning mechanism to understand, what are some of the hesitations around CBD. And so I was doing a bunch of events. So like, connecting one-on-one, so a little bit deeper in terms of relationship and not necessarily scalable. But it was a great opportunity to meet, my consumers and really build this community that, wants to see me win and will always give me honest feedback. My community is very honest about everything. And so with COVID, unfortunately, events are no longer something that's as viable. And so it's going to be, as I spend later this year, since I haven't yet, it's going to be focused on digital and really how to tell that story via digital marketing. And I'm also investing in a website overhaul. So again, because I'm a team of one, things take a little bit longer, but super excited for this next chapter. And then one thing that I wanted to flag that Calvin had mentioned that kind of, sparked something in my brain, as those on this call are probably thinking about retail. I want people to recognize that different retail channels hold different value. And so you almost have to look at it like a portfolio. Like this retailer might give you something that this one won't. And so I would say that sometimes there's this seduction that you need to go really broad, but that's sometimes not the way to really build a business, because then you could be biting off more than you can chew from an inventory standpoint. And so I would just say be very thoughtful and strategic and start small, win within those set of doors, and then expand, as opposed to, trying to fight a battle on all ends of the spectrum if maybe you're too broadly assorted. So this is my 2 cents.
Well, and this is a great point. When you're small, what is the best way to get a retailer's attention? I mean, I'd love to just understand, what you guys have done. I mean, obviously Target Accelerator, but beyond that, what were some of the tactics that you have seen be done to get in front of retailers and to stand out?
I'll start quickly. So I think, again, events were super impactful. So I launched at IndieBeauty Expo, which I think I actually met Calvin at IndieBeauty Expo as well. One of the, I don't remember which one it was. And so events were a good opportunity. Also, I think PR coverage has been helpful. So all of the retailer interest that I've had to date has been inbound. So I haven't had to necessarily do pitching. But programs like the Target Accelerator are amazing opportunities to get, intel and information that you're otherwise not going to get. You get like a peek behind the curtain. And I will also say I've been now in a lot of accelerators. I'm probably over accelerated at this point. I'm actually in one as we speak that's on the cannabis side of the business. And this program, hands down, was the best in terms of the level of detail that was provided, the access to executives, which are, the ultimate decision makers, bar none, best program I've been in. And sorry if there's people on the call that were part of the other programs I'm in, but Target was the best.
I love the authenticity, Dorian. I love it. Darcy, for you've had a ton of experience in retail with Ollie and all these yes to carrots. What do you suggest for retail strategy for these smaller brands? I mean, what are you thinking?
So I think similar to what Dorian said, you want to start getting a little bit of a groundswell, and you want to start getting a little bit of a community. You have to be careful with your product assortment, because a lot of times buyers don't want to take anything too new, right? Like they don't want to be the first person to have it on the shelf. So you want to show a little success, I think, D2C, and have a little bit of love from a community and start a groundswell. And then, to be honest, for me, and again, I'm, a very small team as well, the brokers help a lot. Hiring a good broker to help you navigate, to help you, not only navigate the business side of things, but to help you navigate personalities, to help you, I think it's, the broker is your partner. So I really think it's, with those two together, it's a great retail experience.
That's great. And then in terms of just,
and there's something else out there.
oh, go for it.
So I think one learning that I'm going through right now that might be helpful to those on the call is remembering that not all products are meant for mass retail or whatever retail channel that you're thinking about. So so because I'm focused on the benefits of plant magic and its adaptogens, which I 100% believe this is going to be kind of the next phase of, wellness and how people are using, Mother Nature's wisdom to help heal themselves. It doesn't mean that the Target or whomever else retailer is necessarily there yet. And that's okay. That doesn't mean the product is, less than. It's that in that moment, maybe it doesn't make sense from a retail standpoint or even a pricing standpoint. So the other thing to think about is as you're, building out the wholesale, there is a profit implication of that, right? And so like maybe there's certain products that are really meant to be direct to consumer versus those that you would pick up in brick and mortar. It's not an all or one strategy.
Totally agree with that. A lot of times you look at it and you want the retailer to help you with your minimum order quantities, right? And that's not the way to make decisions. There are products that are better for D2C versus retail. And the other thing I think I'm going to give you a little piece of advice that I learned is that stick to your guns. Target, is powerful. But, I remember the first time I sat down with my buyer and he questioned our name. And my partner walked out of the meeting and she's like, do we change our name? Do we change our name? And I'm like, no, this is our name. We're not changing our name, right? And our price points, we were able to do an analysis and say, listen, we're not going to be the cheapest and we're not going to be the most expensive. This is where we fall and we want to be more premium. And you clearly have price points. So they're willing to engage in a conversation. It's not, if you're like me, you want to please the buyer, you want them to take you, you want to do everything right, but it's okay to have an opinion and to stick to your guns.
That's super, super helpful. And actually a question just came in. Brandon Davenport, he said, do you recommend any great brokers to work with? You mentioned that, are there any broker recommendations or any resources that you guys, would recommend?
For me, for the Target relationship, I've been using JLB for years, and they were recently purchased by Advantage. So the nice thing is for Target, you still get that sort of family feeling, and there's no fish too big or too small. And then when you want to go out to another retailer, they have the means to help you. So I've been super happy with JLB.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then Calvin, how are you thinking? I mean, you mentioned these product drops in terms of, and sorry, before we even go through, because there is a question that I think before we should touch upon. What does a broker do? For those of you that don't know what a broker does, would one of you guys, just kind of explain what a broker does for brands?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Kevin.
I can jump in. So I mean, so we're using a group called CPG to manage our creative partners group, to manage our Target business. I think what has been really important is with any broker is just making sure that they have a relationship with the buyer and the departments that that your product sits in, because it really is all about relationships. And so we're working with CPG, who has a relationship with obviously Target and with our buyer. And that's been an incredible experience. In terms of what they do, we've actually engaged with the buyer before we actually engaged with CPG. What CPG was able to help us to think about is things like margin. Help us to figure out how much margin we should be giving away to Target, or how to think about that, or collect, is Target going to pay for shipping, or are we gonna kind of eat those costs? The other thing is, again, it's about relationship, right? Having a relationship with that buyer and kind of being the in-between. But with that being said, I think it's also important for a brand to build their own relationship with the buyer. I think that has been sort of front and center for us. So although we work with CPG to help us to manage that relationship, we also have a relationship with our buyer, and we at least try to have conversations with our buyer on a quarterly basis. So I think it's important. Yes, the broker will help to sort of be the in-between, and they may have more conversations with the buyer on a regular basis than you do, but it's very, very important that you maintain relationships with your buyer.
And I'm just going to add to that, not only is the relationship, but they help you with all the negotiations around terms. They have an ops team that, when you have to set up EDI, and I sort of looked at them and said, what? They, led me in the right directions. When you're starting to get, chargebacks or things that come in, they'll help you sort of decipher how to navigate that, or set up your products on Target, so all the navigation that's logistical, it's a whole other language. They speak that language.
Yeah, because they're doing it for multiple brands. They have a, experience and track record. And some of the brokers, right, people use JAB, you have CPG. There's a ton of different brokers out there. Obviously, like there's the bigger one, like there's UNFI KE for food stuff. But there's a ton out there that can have those can help and help drive the brand distribution for retail. So it's really exciting.
So I'm using Uncommon, which is a new brokerage. He's amazing, ex-Target, came from CBD Group. And I'm just going to flag this because it's near and dear to my heart. So one piece that's important to my business model is what's called conscious capitalism. So across my supply chain, I partner with female-founded, minority-owned, and LGBTQ businesses. And so for me, it was important that I had a diverse partner, and your broker is basically an extension of your sales team. And so you have to have that level of trust. And so I chose him. He checks the box as a minority man, check, check, check. And also just one thing to keep in mind, is that choosing the right partner, there's pros and cons. So there's some large ones like Stable, like CPG, that actually could be managing multiple brands in that category, which could mean that they have a broader vantage point of the landscape. But just think about, the challenges of maybe being a small fish in a big pond in terms of who you choose to go with, and you're giving them a percentage of your net sales. So I think the industry standards maybe 3 to 5%, depending on the level of service that you're getting. And so you got to build that into your financial model. But hopefully they should be negotiating to save you some money on the back end, so they're basically free.
I love it. And I love that you also, conscious capitalism, that whole thesis and how important that is. And people love it on the chat. And so, you guys have talked about, different products that, how to create products for retail, how to get retail distribution. This year has been very, very different, right? We went through this massive shift in pandemic, and you guys had all, had started your businesses pre-pandemic. I'd love to just understand what you're seeing, the shifts in retail, when March hit last year and then now, and where you think it's going to go. So floor is open. Who wants to take it? Darcy?
I can start if you want. So we just launched our brand in January 2020. So, you know, we launched a brand, and then the pandemic hit, and I called my partner and I said, you know, it was nice having a business with you for a couple months. And it was crickets. And, you know, then as the world started to adapt to quarantine, we saw our D2C taking off. We didn't get into Target until January of this past year. But, you know, I think what the pandemic and what COVID has done for the business is just really looking out from an inventory level. We're probably holding more inventory than we normally would, because, you know, who knows if we can get more from our manufacturers. You know, a lot of our manufacturers shifted to hand sanitizer and wipes, you know, Lysol wipes. So getting online and, you know, really, I think it came down to really forecasting a little better, and it was hard. We didn't have any history. So it was a little bit of a crystal ball, but being able to reserve a line and being able to have the inventory, I think that's from an operation standpoint is how it changed for us. And then from a marketing standpoint, you know, our focus is much more on the digital properties. You know, we're seeing, you know, before the pandemic, I would say online sales were probably around 2% of overall store sales. Now it could be upwards close to 20%. And so you're seeing a lot more people buy online, doing the store pickup. And so we're spending a lot more time and energy and money, you know, on the digital assets, as opposed to things that we could potentially be doing in store.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it's so interesting. And then in terms of, you know, does any of you, I'm just seeing a question that just popped up, which is going from the US to UK, or any experience, you know, going, where do you think that, or is that a huge challenge right now, going international for a lot of these brands?
I think the registration process is a bit tricky. So I'm not as familiar with it. I am in the mindset that I want to focus on one market, blow that out of the water before expanding to another. I just know in my previous life, the EU process for registration can be a bit tricky. And so there's a cost involved and time commitment involved. So it might be best to understand how, you know, the size of the prize in terms of, you know, what that opportunity looks like before you spend to do so.
That makes sense. So Calvin, walk me through how your experience was, pandemic, you know, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, where you think that, you know, the distribution of D2C versus retail, kind of how you're thinking about the business, you know, as you know, salons and everything are opening up. Thank goodness. Just got my haircut recently, winning finally. So I'm ready for the salon and hair care way more than last year. So I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say when the pandemic first hit, of course we were going through a bit of a transition. I'd say at that time, we're still a very, very small team, but we were even smaller than, I think we had probably like 4 or 5 people working on the team, and we were manufacturing our own products. So we had like a 10,000 square foot facility. So some of those people were actually manufacturing products. And when the pandemic first hit, it was incredibly scary because at the same time we were launching in retail, right? So we're manufacturing our own products. We have no clue what's going to happen. You know, as many folks probably thought, like, how am I going to survive this? How am I going to weather through the storm? And we actually found that business had picked up. So our online business just really, really picked up. We've seen some incredible growth. And at the same time, we were beginning to transition to a contract manufacturer, finding a new 3PL. So there was tons of transition that started to happen. And I think what we really did during that time is really spent the time to build a stronger foundation. We knew that we could not possibly scale up our business manufacturing our own products. We knew that it would be very difficult to also ship our own products. And what it's really about is just being really, really strong, having really strong operational the operational pillar, the finance pillar. All of those things are really important, and we knew that we couldn't do it on our own. And we knew that where we were really strong is sales and marketing. And so we we worked with some folks, we talked to a bunch of folks, we found the perfect contract manufacturers, we found a great 3PL. We worked on some back of the house things, brought on a controller and a fractional CFO group to help us with finances, and we just started to really work on building a strong foundation to set us up for success. Because the thought is that if things should slow down, it now is probably the perfect opportunity to build a stronger foundation, so that when things do pick back up, we are a much stronger brand and business than where we started. And so that's kind of how we kind of shifted our focus, along with doubling down on really realigning with our mission and our vision and our values and why we exist, and becoming really focused on figuring out how to deliver value to our customers during unprecedented times of uncertainty.
No, I mean, I love that you thought about building a foundation and really getting really solid with all your ops, because I think that's the only way that you can scale. And so with that, you guys have, you all have small companies, and some of you, and you guys have also worked for bigger companies. At what stage do you, and I'd love to understand like the roles that, I mean, I know Dorian, you're playing all the roles right now, but just the different roles in your company that you think is like, make or break you need to have, and other ones that you think that you can outsource, and at what stage do you decide to really, get those full-time hires on? I mean, is it, company goes from, 1 million to 5 million. I mean, what have you seen, in terms of scaling employees and headcount, Darcy?
So again, it's just the two of us really running the day to day. I would say our number one consultant hire was our operations consultant. Like, he saved my life. Like, he just has done everything. Like, things that were taking me, 3 hours to figure out took him 3 minutes. And so just taking that headache off was probably the best thing that we did. We brought on a couple agencies, like a growth marketing agency, a design agency, even our ops consultant. And, we've given them equity, so they have skin in the game. So it's not, dollars out the door, but and again, it's given them some skin in the game, so they're looking at our success like it's their own success as well. So that's sort of how we've set up our infrastructure, and I think we're just getting to the point where we're going to want to hire a couple people. I do think it's really important to bring a creative director in-house, so that's definitely coming down the line. And then I find that I'm spending a lot of my time in more tactical things, like data entry things, and, things that are just a time suck. So being able to hire someone who can do a little bit of the social media and a little bit, sort of like a marketing coordinator manager type of thing will definitely free me up as one of the main persons working on the business, to be more strategic and more big picture. But by far the ops person.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then another question came in. Who do you guys recommend for marketing agencies, social media marketing agencies? Do you have any recommendations or places or resources that or if you don't recommend it, just totally open, or hiring in-house, whatever your recommendation is?
So my growth marketing agency, I love. They're called Brave One. They're a very small San Francisco agency that really, they really get into the nitty gritty, and they've been great for us. So I would highly recommend them.
Yeah,
awesome.
and we started, in the very beginning, I kind of did everything. I was like the marketer, the guy making the product, the guy shipping the product out, the guy, just like Darcy mentioned, and Dorian, the guy answering customer service emails, and
I'm still doing that, Calvin.
and over some time, as we were able to afford to bring on additional people, and I think I'm also very clear on not bringing in people until I know that there's a clear need for them and we can support them. Because I think the worst thing is to bring someone on and then you can't really afford to keep them, and then you have to let them go. To me, that's just not in many instances, if you can avoid it, try to avoid it. And so we brought on a marketing person to help us in the earlier days. We've always worked with agencies. We've kissed a bunch of frogs there. So I don't really have any real recommendations there. And very recently, we decided that it just makes sense to bring on someone in-house, the digital growth director that we just brought on, to kind of manage analytics, and has a really analytical headset and can help to manage the agencies. Because in my experience, in the very beginning, they can be, you can meet an agency that's really great, and then you'll find out that sometimes as you scale up, they may not be as great with the scale up portion of it. And that's what we found in our experience. And so we've just decided to bring in a growth marketing director who will still then manage working with the agency.
That makes sense.
We kissed a lot of frogs with our PR agency, and we finally landed on one that is phenomenal. And that's K3 Communications. But you do end up kissing a lot of frogs sometimes. And so I think the key is when you're bringing on an agency, if you're doing some sort of contract or something, to keep it short and have a test period, and then, then extend it at that point if it works out.
And Darcy, what was the agency you mentioned?
So growth marketing was Brave One.
Okay, great.
And then PR was K3. And then I do have a fabulous influencer platform too that has a very low minimum, but we can get into that later.
I mean, I can talk to you guys for hours and hours, and now I'm looking, and it's we have 15 more minutes. So I want to go into what this mental health awareness month. I think in terms of even building a business, it's all about your mindset. Like literally everything that was ever built in the world was thought of by a human, right? If you look at, things that we've all built, it's your thoughts are things. And so, I would love to just understand how you guys have navigated the mindset of starting something from scratch, having, the perseverance to say, no, I'm keeping the same name. I'm going after this vertical, going after, just the way that this world is right now with retail and the pandemic. So who wants to start? Dorian, do you want to start and tell me, how you keep your head in the game and what you do for mental health?
So I'm a very spiritual person, not to be confused with religious, which is very different. And one practice that has been instrumental for me has been gratitude. So to your point, your thoughts determine your reality. And I think gratitude and my gratitude practice has primed me to look for the positive that happens every day. And so the way that it works is, and I have a whole gratitude circle, accountability circle, so we're making sure we're sending it to each other. Some of them are other founders too, so it's nice to kind of see people's, business and their personal blending and their gratitude. But what you do is either at any point throughout the day, you either say what you are grateful for, or you project the strength that you need. So like, for example, if I knew that I was coming on this panel, I might say, I am grateful for magnetism and being able to articulate myself clearly. And so you're basically drawing in what you need to accomplish, or what strength you need. And so that's been extremely powerful for me. I've been doing it for 5 years. I actually keep a running notes in my phone, so I can scroll through and be like, what was I thinking about May 5th, 5 years ago? And so it's actually been like a little journal and diary as well. So I 100% subscribe to gratitude. And I would be remiss if I didn't say the benefits of CBD, of course, are great for providing balance, because it interacts with your endocannabinoid system and kind of rejiggers what needs to be kind of set back. And so I think CBD tinctures are a great way for someone that's new, so they can kind of dose themselves, or you can mix it within a beverage. I also have some beautiful CBD infused chocolates that have adaptogens as well, that have been really helpful, because the way that I created them was around specific functional benefits. And so there's one, which is one of my personal favorites, that from a taste profile standpoint, it's almond, sea salt, and blood orange. And it has CBD, but it also has amazing adaptogens like the lion's mane and the gotu kola, which is going to provide functional benefits in addition to the CBD. So I think the gratitude and CBD are two of my strategies for, really staying centered, so that I can be my best leader as I'm working with all of my partners.
I think you're gonna be oversubscribed or sold out of those chocolates. You just made it. You just really are the magnetism it's awesome. I'm very excited about trying those chocolates. Calvin, what do you do to stay sane while you're building and climbing this mountain that we call entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, I've very similar to what Dorian said. I've really become super dialed in on what makes me personally happy, keeps me motivated, and kind of what I need out of this life to feel my best. And part of that is, I think it's super important because we spend so much time working on the business. It's really, really important to make sure that your business's why kind of aligns with your personal why. And so my personal why, or my primary aim or goal, or there's tons of things that people call it, is really to get out of bed excited, about life and working on new and exciting things that ultimately have a profound impact on my life and others. And because really my why aligns so well with like the mission of Scotch Porter, it really keeps me going through like some of those really tough days, because there are tons of tough days, and I'm sure many of you on the panel can attest to it, and folks watching. And then in addition to that, I kind of start my mornings off with, like Dorian said, I'm a spiritual person, but I do start off with like prayer. I find meditation to work out incredibly well. I try to recite like a couple of goals that I have for the day or the week, and kind of keep that top of mind, a couple of mental exercises. And then like Dorian said, I find a moment in the morning or throughout the day to really practice, gratefulness and all the things that I have to be grateful for. And then I also have the occasional visit with my mom, where we'll just talk about anything, right? And we never talk about really the business. And I think all of those things combined kind of keeps me centered and grounded. Especially with like visiting your mom, because your mom doesn't care about the business. She just cares that her son is okay, right? So really having the opportunity to do some of these things really keeps me grounded and centered and at my best.
I'm like, my heart is bursting listening to what you guys are all saying. It's really just so special, and I resonate so deeply. Darcy, what do you do to, you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, so I would say there's two things I subscribe to almost every day, and similar to what Calvin's saying, there's so many hurdles we have to go through during the day, and I love feeling a sense of accomplishment, and I don't want to feel like I'm not doing anything or I'm failing. So when I get up in the morning, I really think about what's the one thing that I'm going to accomplish today and just make me feel good. And it could be clearing out my inbox, or it could be finally, signing that, whatever it is. Like, it could be small, it could be big, but just to give me that sense of accomplishment to keep going. And then every day, when work is done, so to speak, I go for a walk, and I just walk, and I let the day wash off me, and I let the frustrations go, and I clear my mind. And then when I come back, I switch into my other job, and that's being a mom. So it's so hard, when you work from home and you're building a business, you're always on. And I don't want my kids to see me always on a phone, or I don't want to take out on them something that happened during the day, my work day. So I really use like that half hour, 45 minutes. I walk, I come home, and I'm a mom, and I'm focused on that. And that really helps me.
I needed to hear that. I have a 4-month-old, and I see her looking at me on the phone, like at all times. And I'm sitting there going, I can't even imagine, having grown children, and you want to be present. And I think it's really important to be present with your mom, your family, present with your business. So I love the way I'm going to probably there's a lot of takeaways there. And with that, I want to bring on, the Target Accelerator team, Anne and Justine. Can you guys turn on your camera? Are you ready for us? Oh, wonderful. Hi, Anne.
Hi.
Hi, Justine. So great to see you guys. So I would love to just understand a little bit more about this accelerator program that you guys have created and with Target, and how it all works. So go for it.
Sure. Thanks, Megan, and thanks to our amazing panel for being here, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. I can give a little bit of background on Target Accelerators as a whole, and then I'll hand it off to my wonderful partner, Anne, to talk about Takeoff and some of our open applications as well. So Target Accelerators is part of Big Target, Target, and our goal as a team is to connect the amazing capabilities that startups have all over the world, especially brands and products, as well as technology platforms, to the inner workings of Target. And how do we make that easier for both people within Target to work with startups, but also startups to work with retail? Because as you all have heard from our panel, it's not easy. So we're trying to make it easier and more sustainable overall. Within Target Accelerators, we have a portfolio of programs that focus on different types of founders. So founders that are on the early part of their career, maybe they just started, maybe they have an Etsy shop, maybe they're starting in farmers markets, and more local distribution. We have a program called Forward Founders, which is actually open for applications right now, that actually just launched. It's the new baby of the portfolio. And then we have takeoff programs, which I won't spoil because Anne will go into that. And then we have programs that are also based in Bangalore, India, that actually focus on the back end and software systems that Target uses. So we work with international startups there. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Anne.
Thanks, Justine. So these three amazing founders were a part of our Target Takeoff program. We run a Target Takeoff program a few times a year in partnership with specific areas of Target that are looking for innovation. So Dorian, Calvin, and Darcy, they all participated in our Takeoff Beauty program, but we have run programs kind of across the board at Target. And our most upcoming program is called Takeoff Food and Beverage, and we actually have an application live right now. So if any of you have a food and beverage brand or know of anyone in your network that you think would be a good fit for this program, definitely encourage them to apply. We'll drop an application link in the chat for you to check it out. This program is really designed for brands that are interested in mass retail as their next step. So seeing maybe strong D2C sales, or in a few retailers have some doors that you've learned from and are really interested in learning, is Target a good next step for me? This program will be completely virtual. It's 5 weeks long. And as Dorian said, you're getting unprecedented access to mentors within Target, executives within Target. It's just a great opportunity to kind of test the water, see, is this for me? Get that peek under the hood at mass retail. And like I said, our program applications close on Monday. So check it out if you're interested. And then, of course, we run programs with lots of categories. So if you have a business that is not a food and beverage business and you're interested in learning about upcoming applications and programs that we have, enter your information in our contact form on our website so that we can let you know when we have a program upcoming for your category.
And can you guys talk about a little bit about the investment that you're putting in Black-owned businesses?
Yes, happy to do that. So a few weeks ago, Target made a big announcement as part of our Racial Equity and Change Committee commitment, which is to spend over about $2 billion on Black-owned brands as part of our assortment. That is a 5-year goal, very lofty, very big. We are super excited to be part of that goal and part of a team that's supporting building that pipeline. So it goes without saying, even before everything that happened last year, it is a good wake-up call overall for the whole industry, for within Target, but across Target Accelerators, we've been supporting diverse-owned, BIPOC-owned, women-owned, LGBTQ+-owned companies since the very beginning, because we knew that there was value in that, and that overall, the Target guest, that's what we call our customers, wants to see themselves on the shelves and want to see that representation. And if we want to be a long-term relevant retailer, we should stand by that. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, right? Is to help all families discover the joy of everyday life. And we can't do that without the right assortment. So all that to say, if anyone's interested in learning more about our REACH commitment and the $2 billion goal, please, I think we're going to drop a link in the chat, but to connect back to Target Accelerators, our programs are all going to to be inclusive, equitable, and safe environments for all types of founders, but also as the cohort themselves are being put together, we are intentionally making sure that diverse founders have that seat at the table and have the opportunity to be part of them more intentionally than ever. So you're going to see our cohorts are going to be quite diverse, and we do have things in place, so spoiler alert, that will actually help them sustain their businesses even after the program. So we're super excited.
It's so aligned. You can just feel the energy of all these founders. Like, you guys have a very specific, it's just great energy, great ethos, great mission, and it's conscious capitalism. Like, I love that phrase. And then what do you look for in companies? I just want to quickly talk about that as well.
Yeah, maybe Anne and I can tag team this. What's so interesting about Takeoff, I think in general for accelerators, is that the stage at which you're at could be the gaps could be quite large. And you actually shared, Darcy, earlier that when you joined, you had just launched like a month before or something like that, like when you applied. We have companies that have come through that have been doing it for a few years, 5 to 7 years, and then are now just going into that. So to anyone that's worried about that, don't be. What we look at on the Takeoff side, I would say, is really at the end of the day what customers see in you. So one, is your brand story compelling, differentiated, and unique, and something that will really stand out at Target. Target has incredible products and brands that we stand behind, and it's really hard to stand out and bring something new to the table. But if you think that your brand is that brand, please, by all means, share that story with us. The other thing as well that we look at is, of course, product, right? At the end of the day, the quality, the ingredients, the formulation, how is it different? Is it just a nice logo on a bottle that doesn't really have anything much? Oops, sorry. We're having contractors at our house, so if anything happens to me, that's what's happening. So yeah, so product is a big thing, and just making sure you're differentiated. So a good example, just to be more tactical, is on the food and beverage side. Are your ingredients things that, are trending right now, or our customers and guests are waiting for? So we see a lot of paleo-based, keto-based diets, organic, sustainable packaging is all the rage. So are you actually meeting those trends? Because that's what our guest wants. And then last but not least is overall capabilities. And when we say capabilities, it could be supply chain, logistics, manufacturing. And if you have those capabilities to scale into mass, because for Takeoff specifically, we line up these brands to be able to pitch their product to buyers directly and get a yes or no in the next 6 months. So if you get a yes, are you able to kind of pull certain levers and just go? And if not, that's totally okay. Maybe now is not the right time, but that is quite important to know as you're having these conversations through Takeoff.
That is so awesome. I'm so excited for you guys and how, I can't wait to see your businesses keep growing and you guys changing the world in the ways and really creating that conscious capitalism, mission. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Target Accelerator, for joining forces. And for all of those that, we have actually a founder made 15% discount code for incredible Scotch Porter, Strike Club, Undefined Beauty. You could also obviously, apply to the Target Accelerators program, send it to your friends in the CPG and beauty world, because you can tell it's an incredible support network. And with that, we have a ton of different shows coming up. Thank you so much. We have our Power Hour, which is Wednesday, May 19th, which is going to be talking all about operations while scaling nationally with NutriFresh. We have our Discovery Show at Home. Last year was our first Discovery Show at Home in June. This is our annual one. We ship products to retailers and brands so that you can discover, all of the cool products from our show in a box. So see that on our website. And then we have our D2C marketing and engagement summit, which is on Thursday, July 15th. And that's really incredible resources that you can, really use for, D2C execs, talking about how to scale a brand online. So that's what we have for you. And guys, thank you so much You've made my whole week. And happy birthday, Dorian. I know you're celebrating it yesterday and celebrating from Tulum, but we're all here in spirit. And guys, thank you for everything. This is really wonderful, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.